the table next to ours to look over, then away. I can't believe this. I'm leaving now, I say soothingly. I've assessed the situation and I'm going. Don't, she says, trying to grab my hand. Don't go. I'm leaving, Evelyn. Where are you going? Suddenly she looks remarkably composed. She's been careful not to let the tears, which actually I've noticed are very few, affect her makeup. Tell me, Patrick, where are you going? I place a cigar on the table. She's too upset to even comment. I'm just leaving, I say simply. But where? She asks, more tears welling up. Where are you going? Everyone in the restaurant within a particular oral distance seems to be looking the other way. Where are you going? She asks again. I make no comment, lost in my own private maze, thinking about other things, warrants, stock offerings, ESOPs, LBOs, IPOs, finances, refinances, debentures, converts, proxy statements, 8Ks, 10Qs, zero coupons, Pi-Ks, GNPs, the IMF, hot executive gadgets, billionaires, Kenkichi Nakajima, infinity, how fast a luxury car should go, bailouts, junk bonds, whether to cancel my subscription to The Economist, the Christmas Eve when I was 14 and raped one of our maids, inclusivity, envying someone's life, whether someone could survive a fractured skull, waiting in airports, stifling a scream, credit cards, and someone's passport, and a book of matches from La Côte Basque, splattered with blood. Surface, surface, surface. A Rolls is a Rolls is a Rolls. To Evelyn, our relationship is yellow and blue, but to me, it's a gray place. Most of it blacked out, bombed. Footage from the film in my head is endless shots of stone, and any language heard is utterly foreign. The sound flickering away over new images, blood pouring from automated tellers, women giving birth through their assholes, embryos frozen or scrambled, which is it? Nuclear warheads, billions of dollars, the total destruction of the world. Someone gets beaten up, someone else dies, sometimes bloodlessly, more often mostly by rifle shot. Assassinations, comas, life played out as a sitcom. A blank canvas that reconfigures itself into a soap opera. It's an isolation ward that serves only to expose my own severely impaired capacity to feel. I am at its center, out of season, and no one ever asks me for identification. I suddenly imagine Evelyn's skeleton, twisted and crumbling, and this fills me with glee. It takes a long time to answer her question, where are you going? But after a sip of the port, then the dry beer, rousing myself, I tell her at the same time wondering, if I were an actual automaton, what difference would there really be? Libya. And then after a significant pause, Pago Pago. I meant to say Pago Pago. And then I say, because of your outburst, I'm not paying for this meal. Tries to cook and eat girl. Dawn, sometime in November. Unable to sleep. Writhing on my futon, still in a suit, my head feeling like someone has lit a bonfire on it. In it. A constant searing pain that keeps both eyes open. Utterly helpless. There are no drugs, no food, no liquor that can appease the forcefulness of this greedy pain. All my muscles are stiff, all my nerves burning on fire. I'm taking Sominex by the hour, since I've run out of Dalmane, but nothing really helps. And soon even the box of Sominex is empty. Things are lying in the corner of my bedroom. A pair of girl shoes from Edward Susan Bennis Allen. A hand with the thumb and forefinger missing. The new issue of Vanity Fair splashed with someone's blood. A cummerbund drenched with gore. And from the kitchen wafting into the bedroom is the fresh smell of blood cooking. And when I stumble up out of bed into the living room, the walls are breathing. The stench of decay smothers everything. I light a cigar, hoping the smoke will mask at least some of it. Her breasts have been chopped off and they look blue and deflated. the nipples a disconcerting shade of brown. Surrounded by dried black blood, they lie rather delicately on a china plate I bought at the Pottery Barn, on top of the Wurlitzer jukebox in the corner, though I don't remember doing this. I have also shaved all the skin and most of the muscle off her face, so that it resembles a skull with a long, flowing mane of blonde hair falling from it, which is connected to a full, cold corpse. Its eyes are open, the actual eyeballs hanging out of their sockets by their stalks. Most of her chest is indistinguishable from her neck, which looks like ground-up meat. Her stomach resembles the eggplant and goat cheese lasagna at Il Marlibro, or some other kind of dog food. The dominant colors red and white and brown. A few of her intestines are smeared across one wall, and others are mashed up into balls that lie strewn across the glass-top coffee table. Like a long blue snake. Mutant worms. The patches of skin left on her body are blue-gray, the color of tinfoil. Her vagina has discharged a brownish, syrupy fluid that smells like a sick animal, as if that rat had been forced back up in there, had been digested or something. I spend the next 15 minutes beside myself, pulling out a bluish rope of intestine, most of it still connected to the body, and shoving it in my mouth, choking on it, and it feels moist in my mouth, and it's filled with some kind of paste, which smells bad. After an hour of digging, I detach her spinal cord and decide to Federal Express the thing without cleaning it, wrapped in tissue, under a different name, to Leona Helmsley. I want to drink this girl's blood, as if it were champagne. And I plunge my face deep into what's left of her stomach, scratching my chomping jaw on a broken rib. The huge new television set is on in one of the rooms, first blaring out the Patty Winter Show, whose topic today is human dairies. Then a game show, Wheel of Fortune. And the applause coming from the studio audience sounds like static each time a new letter is turned. I'm loosening the tie I'm still wearing with a blood-soaked hand, breathing in deeply. This is my reality. Everything outside of this is like some movie I once saw. In the kitchen, I try to make meatloaf out of the girl, but it becomes too frustrating a task, and instead I spend the afternoon smearing her meat all over the walls, chewing on strips of skin I rip from her body. Then I rest by watching a tape of last week's new CBS sitcom, Murphy Brown. After that, and a large glass of J&B, I'm back in the kitchen. The head in the microwave is now completely black and hairless, and I place it in a tin pot on the stove in an attempt to boil any remaining flesh I forgot to shave off. Heaving the rest of her body into a garbage bag, my muscles slathered with Bengay, easily handling the dead weight, I decide to use whatever is left of her for a sausage of some kind. A Richard Marx CD plays on the stereo. A bag from Zabar's loaded with sourdough onion bagels and spices sits on the kitchen table while I grind bone and fat and flesh into patties. And though it does sporadically penetrate how unacceptable some of what I'm doing actually is, I just remind myself that this thing, this girl, this meat, is nothing, is shit. And along with the Xanax, which I'm now taking half-hourly, this thought momentarily calms me, and then I'm humming a theme to a show I watched often as a child. The Jetsons? The Banana Splits? Scooby-Doo? Sigmund and the Sea Monsters? I'm remembering the song, the melody, even the key it was sung in, but not the show. Was it Lidsville? Was it H.R. Pufnstuf? These questions are punctuated by other questions as diverse as, will I ever do time? And did this girl have a trusting heart? The smell of meat and blood clouds up the condo until I don't notice it anymore. And later, my macabre joy sours, and I'm weeping for myself, unable to find solace in any of this, crying out, sobbing. I just want to be loved. Cursing the earth and everything I have been taught, principles, distinctions, choices, morals, compromises, knowledge, unity, prayer. All of it was wrong, without any final purpose. All it came down to was die or adapt. I imagine my own vacant face, the disembodied voice coming from its mouth. These are terrible times. Maggots already writhe across the human sausage. The drool pouring from my lips dribbles over them, and still I can't tell if I'm cooking any of this correctly, because I'm crying too hard, and I've never really cooked anything before. Taking an Uzi to the gym. On a moonless night, in the starkness of the locker room at Exclusive, after working out for 2 hours, I'm feeling good. The gun in my locker is an Uzi, which cost me $700, and though I am also carrying a Ruger Mini, $469, in my Bottega Veneta briefcase, and it's favored by most hunters, I still don't like the way it looks. There's something more manly about an Uzi, something dramatic about it that gets me excited. And sitting here, Walkman on my head, in a pair of $200 black Lycra bicycle shorts, a Valium just beginning to take effect, I stare into the darkness of the locker, tempted. The rape and subsequent murder last night of an NYU student behind the Gristides on University Place, near her dorm, however inappropriate the timing, no matter how uncharacteristic the lapse, was highly satisfying. And though I'm unprepared by my change of heart, I'm in a reflective mood, and I place the gun, which is a symbol of order to me, back in the locker, to be used at another time. I have videotapes to return, money to be taken out of an automated teller, a dinner reservation at 150 Worcester that was difficult to get. Chase Manhattan. Tuesday night at Boulay, in no man's land. A fairly unremarkable marathon dinner, even after I tell the table, listen, guys, my life is a living hell. They utterly ignore me. The group assembled Richard Perry, Edward Lampert, John Constable, Craig McDermott, Jim Kramer, Lucas Tanner, continuing to argue about allocating assets, which stocks look best for the upcoming decade, hard bodies, real estate, gold, why long-term bonds are too risky now, the spread collar, portfolios, how to use power effectively, new ways to exercise, Stolichnaya Kristall, how best to impress very important people, eternal vigilance, life at its best. Here in Boulay, I cannot seem to control myself. Here in a room that contains a whole host of victims. Lately, I can't help noticing them everywhere. In business meetings, nightclubs, restaurants, in passing taxis and in elevators, online at automated tellers and on porno tapes, in David's Cookies and on CNN, everywhere. All of them having one thing in common. They are prey. And during dinner, I almost become unglued, plummeting into a state of near vertigo that forces me to excuse myself before dessert, at which point I use the restroom, do a line of cocaine, pick up my Giorgio Armani wool overcoat and the .357 Magnum barely concealed within it from the coat check, strap on a holster, and then I'm outside. But on the Patty Winter show this morning, there was an interview with a man who set his daughter on fire while she was giving birth. At dinner, we all had shark. In Tribeca, it's misty out. Sky on the verge of rain. The restaurants down here, empty. After midnight, the streets remote, unreal. The only sign of human life, someone playing a saxophone on the corner of Duane Street. In the doorway of what used to be Duplex, which is now an abandoned bistro that closed last month. A young guy, bearded, white beret, playing a very beautiful but cliched saxophone solo. At his feet, an open umbrella with $1, damp, and some change in it. Unable to resist, I move up to him, listening to the music, something from Les Miserables. He acknowledges my presence, nods, and while he closes his eyes, lifting the instrument up, leaning his head back during what I guess he thinks is a passionate moment, in one fluid motion I take the .357 Magnum out of its holster, and not wanting to arouse anyone in the vicinity, I screw a silencer onto the gun. A cold autumn wind rushes up the street, engulfing us. And when the victim opens his eyes, spotting the gun, he stops playing, the tip of the saxophone still in his mouth. I pause too, but nod for him to go on, and tentatively he does. Then I raise the gun to his face, and in mid-note pull the trigger, But the silencer doesn't work, and in the same instant a huge crimson ring appears behind his head. The booming sound of the gunshot deafens me. Stunned, his eyes still alive, he falls to his knees, then onto his saxophone. I pop the clip and replace it with a full one. Then something bad happens. Because while doing this, I failed to notice the squad car that was traveling behind me. Doing what? God only knows. Handing out parking tickets? And after the noise the Magnum makes echoes, fades, the siren of the squad car pierces the night, out of nowhere, sending my heart into palpitations. I start walking away from the trembling body, slowly, casually at first, as if innocent. Then I break into a run, full-fledged, the cop car screeching after me. Over a loudspeaker, a cop shouts uselessly, "Halt! Stop! Halt! Put down your weapon!" Ignoring them, I make a left on Broadway, heading down towards City Hall Park. Ducking into an alleyway, the squad car follows, but only makes it halfway as the alley narrows, a spray of blue sparks flying up before it gets stuck, and I run out the end of the alley as fast as I can onto Church Street, where I flag down a cab, hop in the front seat and scream at its driver, a young Iranian guy, completely taken by surprise, to get the hell out of here, fast! No, drive! I'm waving the gun at him, in his face, but he panics, cries out in mangled English, "Don't shoot me, please! Don't kill me!" Holding his hands up, I mutter, "Oh, shit," and scream, "Drive!" But he's terrified. "Oh, don't shoot me, man! Don't shoot!" I impatiently mutter, "Fuck yourself," and raising the gun to his face, pull the trigger. The bullet splatters his head open, cracks it in half like a dark red watermelon against the windshield, and I reach over him, open the door, push the corpse out, slam the door, start driving. In an adrenaline rush causing panting, I can only get a few blocks because partly of panic, mostly because of the blood, brains, chunks of head covering the windshield, and I barely avoid a collision with another cab on Franklin, is it? And Greenwich, veering the taxi sharply to the right, swerving into the side of a parked limousine. Then I shift into reverse, screech down the street, turn on the windshield wipers, realizing too late that the blood sprayed across the glasses on the inside, attempt to wipe it away with a gloved hand, and racing blindly down Greenwich, I lose control entirely. The cab swerves into a Korean deli next to a karaoke restaurant called Lotus Blossom, I've been to with Japanese clients, the cab rolling over fruit stands, smashing through a wall of glass, the body of a cashier thudding across the hood. Patrick tries to put the cab in reverse, but nothing happens. He staggers out of the cab, leaning against it. A nerve-wracking silence follows. "Nice going, Bateman," he mutters, limping out of the store, the body on the hood moaning in agony. Patrick, with no idea where the cop running toward him across the street has come from, he's yelling something into his walkie-talkie, thinking Patrick is stunned. But Patrick surprises him by lunging out before the cop can get to his gun, and he knocks him over onto the sidewalk. Where people from the Lotus Blossom are now standing, staring dumbly at the wreckage, no one helping the cop as the two men lie struggling on the sidewalk, the cop wheezing from exertion on top of Patrick, trying to wrestle the Magnum from his grasp. But Patrick feels infected, like gasoline is coursing through his veins instead of blood. It gets windier, the temperature drops, it starts raining. But softly they roll into the street. Patrick keeps thinking there should be music. He forces a demonic leer, his heart thumping, and manages quite easily to bring the gun up to the cop's face. Two pairs of hands holding it, but Patrick's finger pulls the trigger. The bullet blowing a crease in the top of the officer's skull, yet failing to kill him. But lowering his aim with the aid of the loosening grip of the officer's fingers, Patrick shoots him in the face. The bullets exit, casting a lingering pinkish mist, while some of the people on the sidewalk scream, do nothing, hide, run into the restaurant, as the cop car Patrick thought he evaded in the alley careens toward the deli, red lights flashing, screeching to a halt right when Patrick trips over the curb, collapsing onto the sidewalk, at the same time reloading the Magnum, hiding behind the corner, the terror he thought had passed engulfing him again, thinking, I have no idea what I've done to increase my chances of getting caught. I shot a saxophonist who was probably a mime, too. For that, I get this, and in the near distance he can hear other cars coming, lost in the maze of streets. The cops now, right here, don't bother with warnings anymore. They just start shooting, and he returns their gunfire from his belly, getting a glimpse of both cops behind the open doors of their squad cars. Guns flashing like in a movie, and this makes Patrick realize he's involved in an actual gunfight of sorts. That he's trying to dodge bullets. That the dream threatens to break is gone. That he's not aiming carefully, just obliviously returning gunfire.